we generated an extra £1,500 a month. Now had a buffer of an extra £1,500 a month. Now, it can be a good thing. When you get that extra money, it does mean that you might start thinking, well, let's spend it. And then your expectations go up. What this gave him was a massive sigh of relief, a realization, actually, I can start to earn my way out of this. I can start to put money aside so that me and my family can have headspace. We can afford those holidays. Maybe even I could dial a little bit back at work while saving for the future with this extra funds. So for me, that was one of the biggest achievements in the last 6 months I've had, just giving someone that breathing space.
So this is the Stronger Business Together podcast, where business owners learn from each other's experience. No theory, no gurus, just real journeys and overcoming real hurdles. Today, I'm joined by Alex Wheeler of C&W Wealth Management. And like any owner, he's in that middle of building something, fixing something and growing something that really matters. So Alex, welcome.
Granger, thank you very much for having me on.
Fantastic. So let's start at Act 1, your business. So in plain English, what does your business do?
In simple terms, I help people who earn good money but don't really feel it turn into financial freedom and make sure that they're not missing out on anything important, such as hitting any hurdles along the way.
Fantastic. So it's about helping people get that financial freedom and feel secure and develop in that future, often that long-term future. So who do you love helping and what are they typically dealing with then?
Gosh, it's so many. I come across people in all different backgrounds. So from people who have, being a qualified financial advisor, my door's being knocked on all the time by someone who might have an issue with they've received some money or they've been given some money in a trust and it's complex and they're just trying to unravel it, through to people who are earlier on in the journey and they're just trying to figure out, wait, hold on a second. No one taught us anything about, now we're starting to earn a bit of money. How do we make sure we hold on to it? Because there's quite a lot of tax out there. And what's the best way that I can earn money, keep it and hold it for the future? So they're usually the two different camps I get knocking on my door.
Excellent. Right. So we've got a good understanding of those people. Let's go to the business. When did you start and what was that original spark, that idea?
The business originally came from, so I used to work for a Bristol-based financial advice firm who we only helped business owners. So it was a bit of a blend between helping fund people's businesses. So director owners could raise funds through, they could lean on their pension funds, other savings, other things like that in a really tax efficient way. And I did that for, 7 or 8 years to start with. This was way back in, I think it was 2011, something around then. And that company took me on and grew my qualifications, my career, and everything about I know today about what I do. But eventually it got to the stage where I wanted to spread my wings a bit more, have a bit more control over the types of people that I could help. And yes, I still very much look after business owners, but it's also people with other issues. And so I wanted to set up my own practice and open the door a little bit wider. But also keep it a little bit narrower, keep it a bit more local, because I used to be national, so a lot of driving and slightly over that.
Fantastic. Well, that's fun. Yeah, so you had that great start, but you also saw that opportunity, that idea, keeping it local, but helping other people. I like that. Very good. So what does your business look like today then in terms of size and shape?
Wow. So when I started about 6 years ago with my own practice, I had a few clients come with me, which was great, but then it started growing by word of mouth. Now, my initial business plan, and gosh, I've had so many that I've torn up and restructured from the start. My initial business plan has completely changed and I was going to go down one avenue. It's now a blend of really, I'd say about 50% of my clients are business owners, just because that's where I've trodden that path and I've got loads of experience and I'm able to answer a lot of questions that most financial advisors can't because of what I did before, through to I genuinely like helping people who are either one, really need it, or are just open to spotting those opportunities and making sure they're getting the most out of it. So at the moment, I think I look after around 40 different families. So it's around 60 individuals. It's still growing. And yeah, I'd say most of them are now starting to come up around the Southwest region. But it does bridge quite a lot very naturally. So I'm up and down the M4 corridor, so down to London a fair bit. But that's where the business is at the moment, I think.
And is the business still you?
So it's not just me. You've got me, and we've got a team of 6. So they're helping me in all the different areas of research, compliance, and report writing. So I've aligned my practice with a company called St. James's Place, one of Europe's largest wealth managers. So it's great to have that scale. But at the same time, I think a lot of people care about that face-to-face connection. They want to know that the person who's giving them that suggestion, that recommendation to do this, and it'll save you that, they want to have that trust. And my feeling is if I have a team of 15 or a team of 20 that we're constantly cycling through clients, I think you start to lose that connection.
Yeah, love that. So what you're trying to do is build enough clients, with a small team, but keeping that connection. At the moment, that connection is just through you, but we'll see how the business grows and where you go next. In 6 years, that's done amazing. You got to that number of team there to support and do that. And my next question is always around how, why do customers pick you and how do you delight them? But I think you've really explained that already around building that trust and that knowledge. If you can, tell me about a customer success that you're proud of.
Gosh, it's a client who came to me about 1.5 years ago, and we reconnected 6 months ago. So 1 year ago, I had a first meeting with him. We did connect a bit. What we did is we had our process is normally 3 stages. So stage 1, a coffee chat, just to get to know each other, see if we're on par with one another. And stage 2 is our strategy meeting. So that's the one where I really break down into what track they're on and what different tweaks we can make along the way to save them a bit of tax or get some better value out of their investments. And we had that initial coffee chat, and I'd highlighted a few of the different areas that I could really help him. And most of the people who come to me are quite time poor. So I raised it, and he left it there at that first stage, but he came back to me 1 year later and he said, look, Alex, you'd suggested a huge amount of really valuable things. I've completely forgotten what any of them are. I haven't done any of them. Can we restart? And because I just feel like I'm kicking and I'm not going anywhere. So we broke down exactly where he is. And this chap, I won't mention any names, but I will mention a few numbers. He earns really well. He was earning around £180,000 a year, and his wife was working. They had one child at school. But at the same time, he was trying to launch his own separate business. From month to month, he just wasn't going anywhere. He had credit card debts. All the money was going out the door. He was working from morning to dusk. And he had no way of building up a financial savings buffer. What some people won't talk to you about, they'll talk about the flashy side of investing, they'll talk about their percentage returns. But actually, one of the biggest things that can give you financial freedom is having savings. So just having that little war chest that's supporting you. And he just didn't have that. He didn't have any of the structure. So what we did is we stacked up all of his finances on one side. I tweaked them around a bit. I didn't change how much he was earning. I didn't really change how much he was saving. But by reorganizing, changing some of the ways he was doing things, we generated an extra £1,500 a month. So going from spending everything he had and probably a little bit too much, he now had a buffer of an extra £1,500 a month. Now, it can be a good thing. When you get that extra money, it does mean that you might start thinking, well, let's spend it. And then your expectations go up. But what this gave him was a massive sigh of relief, a realization, actually, I can start to earn my way out of this. I can start to put money aside so that me and my family can have headspace. We can afford those holidays. Maybe even I could dial a little bit back at work while saving for the future with this extra funds. So for me, that was one of the biggest achievements in the last 6 months I've had, just giving someone that breathing space. And yeah, he's been a really inspirational chap to work with.
Fantastic. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it. And that really sort of takes to me, when I work with my clients, I talk about as a business owner, you should have at least 3 months initially and then 6 months worth of operational costs, not every cost, but operational costs, just in case. And I like that expression you used, that war chest, that buffer, that opportunity just to slow down when something goes wrong in life, to make good decisions rather than hurrying to make fast decisions and probably sometimes making the wrong ones. So yeah, brilliant, fantastic story. Every business, we need leads. Leads then turn into opportunities and sales beyond that. So how do you go about generating leads in your business?
So it's through a fairly wide spread of different routes. Now, word of mouth for me is the best way. It's the biggest honor for someone who has either knows me, either sat down with me, whether or not they've directly done business with me or not. Quite often it leads to referral to one of their friends, family, or something else has happened. So that's one route. People who've seen me generally will put me in touch with 1 to 2 other people. So that's one kind of snowballing effect. Another is I work with a couple of accountants who, especially this time of year, are knocking on my door a fair amount. Everyone's looking at their allowances and reliefs about to drop off a cliff. So this time of year, it's a lot of little admin bits to make sure that everyone's saved those tax reliefs and bits and bobs. And another is I have tried the social media side of things a little bit. I haven't been the best at it. Hasn't always worked, but that's something in the future. But generally, it's just making sure that if people are going to search for me online, that my website, my profile is there and available, and I've got some reviews. And having people recognize or offer their thoughts and opinions and their experience with you, I think is really, really powerful, to not just to my industry, but to anyone. By having honest, genuine reviews and making sure you're looking after customers that produce those, I think it's going to be one of the best business generators out there.
And referrals are the best type of lead generation anyway, because they're the most likely to convert into sales. But sometimes those other ones just take time and learning to understand how to make them work. But referrals can take an even longer time sometimes, because it takes that time to build that relationship with your customers, build that relationship with your referral partners to get to that point where it then starts to deliver. Where a lot of us think, well, just like selling something in a shop, that, just because I put it out there, people will come and turn up. But building a business, building a lead generation process does take that time to make it happen and get it working. Fantastic. So, Alex, what are you aiming for in the next 12 months for your business, and why?
Gosh, I am taking on new clients at the moment. What kind of clients am I trying to build on? Well, it's really 2 main hubs, and it's generally 2 categories of kind of styles of business. It tends to be, so I'm based in the West Country, and the people that probably have most of my need and help around this sort of area are looking at things such as family planning, legacy planning. So they're thinking about all the new inheritance taxes that the governments are leaning on us with. Mainly it's the uncertainty of it all, because it just seems to change all the time. So based geographically around here, that's one of my hot topics that I'm talking to people about. But I also have a bit of a bubble of clients in and around London, so West London. They tend to be the more aspirational individuals with younger families, fairly high salaries and fairly high tax rates, which I'm growing there as well. So I only take on somewhere in the region of 10 clients every year. It's not a great deal, but that's enough. And actually that's the pace at which I really want to get to that stage, because if I take on any more, I just don't want to impact anyone else that I'm working with. So yeah, I'm getting to the stage where I can be a little bit more selective and making sure that everyone is getting the most out of me.
Brilliant. Yeah, I like that journey. I like to see where you're going. Let's move on to Act 2. Let's explore your journey to date as a business owner. So, over the last 6 years of your business, how would you describe its ups and downs? What are the highs and lows?
So very much so. It was a real struggle starting just before COVID, but thank goodness for Zoom and thank goodness for all the video calling services. That was great for dealing with the existing customers, but new customers were all trying to find that new way of communicating. I've really found, what I thought, the types of business that I thought I'd be doing loads of at the start is completely different to others. Having 2 children since I started my business has really been a wild roller coaster. They are so much more noisy than anyone tells you they're going to be. There are so many good things out of what we do in terms of the customers have definitely been the high for me. To see everyone else's journey grow, how they're progressing, how they're hitting their own goals. It's why I do what I do. Some of the more frustrating bits along the way have mainly been around the decisions to change. I feel I really own any impact on my clients, and when, I'll put it politely, when financial decisions from up top have a big negative impact on them, yeah, it really annoys me potentially as much as it does my clients. That's what I would say is my biggest low, is just feeling all of the pain that some of my customers go through when major rule changes come in place.
Now, running a business at times is hard work. It's lonely. What have you learned about yourself and your business when times have got hard?
You are absolutely right when you say lonely. It's one of the things that I think you have to build into your everyday week is making sure that you're not just focused on you when you're doing your day to day. You need to get out there. You need to share your journey, share what you're doing with not just your team, but other industry owners. Build a network of mentors. And these don't just have to be all completely business focused. I think having a mentor for attitude, perspective, they don't have to be in the same industry as you. One of the main people I've taken inspiration for has come from a rugby club where I joined when I moved to the area. And it's just great to see the outlook, the perspective, the attitudes that others have and feed off them. So yeah, being a business owner is a bit of a solitary thing, but make sure you don't allow it to be. Really sort of lean on others.
I totally agree. I fully appreciate that need. It's one of the reasons why Stronger Business Together actually exists, making better decisions through peers. Now, I just want to go back a little bit. You talked about the evolution of business and what you sell and what you do and the types of clients. So what's changed over the last 6 years in terms of what you sell and what you sell now? Why did you make that change?
So before it was solely helping people who, I was split into two different types of clients. Those who needed cash flow for their business. So they needed that extra injection of funds for either growing or just steadying the ship whilst they get through a period of slight rockiness. And the other side of it was just tax efficiency. So people would come to us because we had a pretty clever way of saving tax, using pensions, growing your own wealth, but also saving tax within the company. So it was really the main focus. The thing that has changed the most in the last 6 years for me is that stage 2 that I mentioned a bit earlier, the strategy stage, where I'll sit down in front of a client, we'll map out their full financial future going forward. I've got a tool, I build what I call a future financial plan for every single client. And having that running track to build on, strangely enough, isn't a product that I sell. It's not an insurance plan. It's not an investment strategy. It's not a tax planning strategy. It is having that has been the most impactful thing that I've built into my business. And it doesn't bring any revenue on its own. It's not a product that I sell. It's just part of the package, which I personally feel makes me a much more complete financial advisor.
And you talked about children have come into your life and being very noisy, but they're rich, they enrich our lives as well. But there are times in your business when it saps your energy. What have you done to remove things, outsource things in your business that has given you energy back?
I've realized when I started the business, I'm not the best at passing off tasks to other people. I'm one who really likes to know how to do everything within the business. Even if, to be honest, you'll know this, Granger, from not only just running a business yourself, but helping so many other businesses, that you physically can't do every single piece of the puzzle. Sometimes it's regulatory, so you need your accountant to submit your accounts. Sometimes it's just something you're not so good at. But year one, I was definitely trying to do every single little bit of marketing. I was doing every single bit of planning, following up with people, writing all my reports, doing all my admin. Exhausting. Getting someone on to do the bits that you're not necessarily so strong at has been an absolute game changer in terms of freeing up mind space, but also financially, it's such good value. Get help in the areas that you're not so good at. And if you don't know what you're good at or not so good at, ask someone else, lean on a mentor, lean on a confidant, or book a session with you, Granger. I'm sure you'll be able to point us in the right direction of what things we might want to have a think about.
Yeah, outsourcing and finding people to take on those elements is so important. Now, AI, and everyone talks about AI. Are you using AI in some form within your business?
We are. When it comes to meeting notes, just making sure that I've got a good track of exactly what we discussed and what kind of actions I should be able to take. And to be honest as well, it's really good to follow through into those final reports that I'm offering clients. So when I say, you've got this, and I suggest you switch to this, everything that we've discussed, everything that you've told me about and shared about your plan, AI is a great way of bulletproofing that whole process to make sure it's fully accurate. And yeah, that's where I've really lent on it. Now, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to it, so maybe I'm not expanding into too much, but I also think people don't necessarily want too much of an influence over
Yeah.
over the
So, I mean, what to you then would you never let AI do because you actually need human judgment?
any bit of planning. So I asked it the other day. I did a little bit of an AI test, and I asked it to do one of my pension calculations, which I'd already done, and it got it completely wrong. It based it on a calculation from 5 years ago or whatever it might be. So when it comes to there's by the book what is a good idea for someone to do, and then there's reading between the lines of people's goals. So for example, someone could come to me and say, right, I want to get the best value out of this pot of money which I've just received. I actually had a meeting with someone today who had exactly that. £85,000. They came to me and said, right, my father's always told me, you've got to get this invested. You've got to get the best return on it. We took a step back. We had a sit down. We looked at what's going on in your life. And it turns out they had a massive career change. So their husband at the same time, their kids were all just going off to university. One of their children's cars just broke down. And we did a financial model. We did a financial plan. And yeah, they had loads of headroom. But just at this moment, it wasn't the right thing to do. They just didn't have enough cash flow. They were spending slightly more than they were actually earning. Although by the book, to get the most out of that £85,000, you got to get it invested. Having that breathing room to enable them to adopt to their new careers, not investing that cash was the best thing to do. So when it comes to how much can you lean on AI or use books to try and direct decisions for your clients, I think there's always going to be that little bit of perspective because the client was asking to get that money invested. But actually, I really felt that at this moment in time, take the 12 months breather. Yes, you might miss out on a few different little bits of returns here and there. You may or may not. But that financial freedom, that ability to breathe is going to be worth so much more to you than a few percent.
Fantastic. That's a really good description of using AI for some parts of it, but actually the human judgment of understanding the real nuances of what's going on and giving people really good advice based on your experience is absolutely valuable. And at the moment in time, AI can't do that. Who knows where it'll get to in the future, but it definitely can't do that at the moment. Brilliant. Well, so let's move on to Act 3 now, our hurdle. So what have you picked as a hurdle for our conversation today?
So I guess one of my own hurdles is something I've experienced it a little bit more recently. And that is that I don't struggle too much with people knocking on my door. I get them to the stage that we'll do a bit of a plan. We'll get them to stage 2 in my process, which is the strategy side of things. I'll give them the options. I'll highlight these are the routes that I really think you should be making because they make a lot of sense. I'm getting clients to get that stage and they think, well, great, you're absolutely right. These steps all make sense. But then getting to the stage where they actually think, well, let's get it sorted. They're fully engaging and buying is a bit different. They're realizing the value that I brought to the table, but then doing that last little bit of work. I've had a few people come back and think, well, let's just have a bit of a reassess.
Yeah.
So that's the hurdle I'm dealing with at the moment, I think.
Okay. And if we could fix this within the next quarter, what would better be like in one sentence?
What a great question. For me, better would be if once I've shown value to clients, they really feel like engaging from step 1.
So let's really first of all understand the current condition. So what's going on today? So how many clients do you get to the discovery step that then don't follow on for the right? Okay, let's do this.
So most clients will go from the discovery to the strategy stage. So first initial coffee, everyone loves that. The strategy stage, to be honest, I really love the strategy stage. Most clients do love the strategy stage as well. It's committing to what we've highlighted as a good way for them to move forward.
As a percentage?
My conversion rate from meeting 1 to meeting 2 is like 90%. So, so it's really high. My conversion from meeting 2 to meeting 3 being let's sit down, sign some paperwork and get things put in place is probably around 40%.
Okay.
Immediately. But it doesn't mean I get quite a few clients who, like the one previously I mentioned, who will come back within a year, which probably knocks it up to about 50 to 60%. But yeah, there's still quite a few people that I'm sitting down with who are taking on board what I'm doing and not taking action.
Yes, that's also been realistic here. No sales process in the world is 100% conversion. We've got to put that as a realistic context here. But okay, so let's think about these individuals. So what often we do is we think from our point of view. It's an interesting one. I have lots of conversations. We put ourselves from our point of view because we live it and breathe it every single day. We take that forwards with our clients or prospects of people. So let's first of all put our context of them. They've come knocking on your door for a reason. They've had a discovery call with you and they've gone, okay, let's have a strategy call. They've done the strategy call. What's going on in their lives, do you think? Why would they then suddenly not want to talk to you? Don't think about you, think about them. And often it's easy to think about maybe one or two people when you're answering these type of questions.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I've got a couple of names that are jumping straight to mind. One who is kind of which inspired my whole business hurdle, has got a lot going on in his personal life. He's going through, I won't say the specifics of it, but there are quite a few personal outgoings, a bit of a on and off property development. I think he's fighting a lot of fires in his life, and potentially maybe he's thinking that this is another thing that he needs to go through. He needs to get done.
Well, it is. It's not. He's thinking that's the reality of it. If we think about our own lives, as things happen, we go, oh, I just need to fix this. We go looking for a solution. We find a solution, but now what we're doing is we've just added a solution, another thing, another action, another set of activities on top of our already busy activity lives. So actually what we're doing, we're not just giving them more work to do. Yes, it's brilliant work. Yeah, and we know what it will do for them. And they may even said, you know what, that's really good. But we've just added more to their thinking. We've added more activity that's going on. And that's why people often go quiet. And within my business, we have an expression called they've gone to Corfu. Corfu is our favourite island. We love holidaying in Corfu. So our expression is they've gone to Corfu. It's not that they've ignoring us. They've just gone on holiday. A holiday from our proposal, our thinking of how to help them. And so that's effectively what's happening to them, isn't it? So how would we restructure then? What would be a new target condition? Let's think about that, of what the process would be, so we don't end up being in a situation where we've done all the work to say this is the best strategy for you, but actually done something maybe beforehand to actually identify the right people to do work for.
Gosh, I might come up with some absolutely stinking ideas here, but let me throw some out there.
Go for it.
Something I've toyed with is quite a forward one, is to start off with tail end of my first meeting, the discovery, to be very frank and bring it up and say, well, look, let's book in this strategy meeting, but if I can find some strategies that are going to really put you financially in a much better situation, would you be willing to work with me on it?
Maybe change that a bit. Again, putting it onto them. Maybe ask them something like, okay, we've had this initial conversation now, we've had this diagnostic. Out of a score of 1 to 10, where are you currently on wanting to move forwards if I was to develop some strategies for you to do that? 10 being saying, yeah, let's go for it. 5 being, I'm really unsure. 1 being, you know what, I'd love to do it, but I'm just snowed under.
I like that, because that way you're just giving them a nice soft scale to work to.
Absolutely, yes. We often talk about, in sales process, we talk about feelings. How do you feel about that? Okay. When you put feelings in, you suddenly pile on all emotions and everything else. But if you actually say, what do you think about that? Then you actually start engaging the brain more. So by putting a 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 type thing on there, you're giving that thinking part of the brain to actually think about that opportunity, what's going forwards.
I like that. I'm definitely gonna scribble down some ideas this evening, see what I can build in.
So marketing is a funnel. So it's lots of people that comes down to a few people that turn up at our door and say, I'd love to have a conversation, Alex. Sales is a pipeline. It's one step after another step after another step. Now, it doesn't mean everyone goes through that pipeline. There should always be checks and balances all the way through it to identify the right people to keep moving through it. And those are those stages where you're actually engaging with them and saying, well, where are we? Are we on the right track? Because I may just say, you know what? like the gentleman that disappeared for 9 months or how long it was, a year. They're just too busy. But what you've given them is you say, look, what I can do is I can give you a strategy session, because you still might want to do that because you still want to add value. But then you can say, well, I appreciate you're just really, really busy, man. I'm going to do this strategy session. We're going to finish that off and, I'll leave it with you. Therefore, you can decide how much effort you want to put into the strategy development versus someone who is at a 10 who would definitely really be interested to move forward, and you might build that in a more detailed way. So we always have those checks and balances through our pipeline, but it's just asking the question of them, where are they? Yeah, but don't put it in the words of feelings, put it in the words of questions and their thinking part of their brain.
I think that's fantastic. I think it's a really good idea. And you're absolutely right. I probably talk about feelings far too much of a feeler myself. But yeah, being able to bring
Absolutely.
that
Where would you do that first, do you think? So thinking through your steps, your 3 steps. I mean, is 3 enough? I mean, let's be honest. Is 3 the right number? Are you trying to move people too fast? I don't mean in times in between, but just the interaction. You already talked about building that trust element. Is 3 meetings enough to build trust? There's just some thoughts.
Yeah, so I guess thinking about, I know people in my industry try and skim it down to 2 meetings, but again, that's not really how I want to run my business, because I think at that stage it starts to feel really transactional. And I think for many people, it depends on the outcomes I find from that second meeting, whether or not we do a 3, a 4, or even a 5 meeting stage. I still call that strategy planning stage the second meeting, even if we do it 2 or 3 times, because things will grow and develop, because I'll plant some seeds with clients. They'll go away, they'll talk to their other halves. They'll come back to me and say, oh, actually, I know we talked about this, but all of a sudden I found I've got this other thing, and we might actually, rather than do what we're doing here, we might want to retire in Barbados and throw a few bombs into the plan. And so it is nice to come back and revisit. Now, I do find the more you revisit it, the more invested you get in that plan. But it doesn't
you're building
always
that longer know, like, and trust element, aren't you? You're building up that trust by engaging more with them through that process.
Strangely enough, I'm coming back to the business hurdle. I have another client at the moment who we've done 3 meetings already. So 2 strategy meetings. And yet, although they're really enjoying the strategy side of things, getting them through to securing that plan, there are lots of signals where they're putting the brakes on, but still wanting to in that second meeting stage.
Yeah.
So I'm, to be honest, this one client he's throwing me, because I'm getting loads of communications and getting loads of positive feedback. But when it comes to the actual core of the plan, like I can only assume that his investments are going to do so well. But until I've actually sat down and looked at them, I just can't follow it through.
We talk about building trust, but actually from their point of view, it's their risk. It's their scaredness, their afraidness, whatever words we want to use. We talk about trust. Do they trust us? But actually for them, it might be a big step. So it's understanding them and sitting in their shoes and using language and understanding and a process that helps guide them to a better decision all the way time, thinking about how you're adding best value for them through that activity that you're doing of your sales process.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
So, wrapping that all up, what 1 or 2 experiments could you do next to try some of these ideas?
So I definitely think into each meeting stage, I need to be asking clients to think a little bit more about the process and ask them for feedback along the way. And like you said, I think tailoring what the next meeting or the next action is going to be based on how engaged they are in the process. Although I might be willing to take everyone through the process, it might not be right for my business, but equally at the same time, it probably puts guilt on them to see that there's all of this advanced planning going on, which, yes, it might feel good to get the value from, but at the same time, if they're not necessarily feeling like they're fully committed, it might put more pressure on them to think, oh, actually, maybe I don't want any more meetings because I'm worried about maybe not wanting to continue. If I can take that measure beforehand, I can tailor what I'm doing or what I'm offering them to not put that pressure on.
Brilliant. And by asking it at multiple stages as well, and subtly different each stage, you're also building that a bit more commitment for them to the next step. But when they are at one and they're not interested, actually that's an opportunity to circle back round and start asking other questions to find out why, so you can then improve your process again next time, and the way you select and how you move people through and when you move people through, because you want to do right by them rather than yourself, very clear from the beginning. And helping and understanding them is what the journey is about, rather than just selling. So if you were to make that change, what do you think an outcome might be in the next quarter?
I mean, there's no doubt with checks and balances and with tailoring my approach to how motivated the client is, there's no doubt I'd save time on my end. And okay, let's say even if the number of clients I don't convert is exactly the same, the number of man hours I'd be putting into it would change quite drastically, I could imagine.
Yeah, well, got something to move forwards with. So, Alex, let's move to our close and wrap up now. What did you hear yourself say today that maybe surprised you?
I guess it's nice to revisit exactly the journey one's been on, the kind of things that are most important to you. Because when you're setting up your own business, it's ideological, and it is genuinely nice to know and feel and be able to share why I do what I do. And it is very much just because I get so excited along the journeys that other people have got, and being able to support people on it is, I feel it's one of the biggest honors that someone can bestow upon me. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most surprising things that is nice to say out loud.
Fantastic. And finally, Alex, how can people get hold of you to follow more of your journey?
So you can jump on my website, which is cwwealth.co.uk. On there, you can read a little bit more information about me. And if you want to get in touch and you've got any questions of your own, please feel to reach out. It's got my contact details on there.
Fantastic. Well, Alex, thank you so much for being open and honest with us today. And I know our listeners will get an awful lot from this conversation. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Granger, thank you very much for having me on. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for spending your time with us today. We're on a mission to make business owners stronger together. If this conversation helped you, please like, comment and follow on whatever platform you're using. About 60% of our audience hasn't done that yet. And these small actions help us reach more business owners just like you. If you want to join the conversation as a guest, or if you have a hurdle question for us to tackle, reach out at us at info@strongerbusinesstogether.com. Now, go make it a really successful week, and we'll see you at the next one. Cheers.